Hi guys, Rob Hampson here. I'm sitting here with Gavin Chaplin, as who you know quite well. I sent a mail out yesterday just to say that we'll be getting together to discuss some pretty exciting series and videos that we're going to be bringing to you in the next couple of months. And I've had the pleasure of being able to watch those videos, and I'm really excited for you guys to see what's actually going to be coming out. In that email, I did say we're going to answer a couple of the questions, the common questions that have come in from you, the audience, and that's what we're here to do now. So, first question, Gav, is which bit would you start a young horse on? Quite a few people have actually come in with that question.
Rob, that's such an interesting question, and for all of you guys out there, what you need to understand is that to a horse, you are a predator. You've got eyes on the front of your face, your ears are laid back, you eat meat, most of you, so the horse can smell that, and then you are landing in the saddle exactly where the big cats would land if they're predating on a horse. So the horse has already got a lot of stresses and strains put on it. So the more of those that you can take away, the better. And if you look at the pressures that a bit exerts, basically bar pressure, tongue pressure, and pole pressure. And with a pilum, obviously, you've got the chain working on the jaw at the back as well. And that's the reason I like to use a ported mouthpiece. Now, people are always talking about a gag or a pilum. I'm not interested in that. I want to know what's in the horse's mouth. And if you use the ported Don McCarty mouthpiece, I have the most success with that because it takes away the tongue pressure. And also, take the rein away from the bottom ring of a 3-ring gag or the rope attachment of a rope gag and put it on the snaffle attachment, because then you're also taking away the pole pressure. And I find if you take away those pressures, Rob, that your horse is in a much better space to learn.
Okay, so what you're saying is to use something that's going to relieve tongue pressure initially?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's one pressure that's gone. Also, if you've started with the in-hand work with long lining and stuff, that the horse already knows how to respond to the pressures of the bit before you get on it.
Okay.
It's also a heat down the road. And then if you take away any leverage, a pilum has leverage action, a gag has a leverage action. If you take away that, then you take away the pole pressure as well.
Okay.
So now the horse is in a space that it can learn because it's paying attention to a single thing, which is the pull in the mouth.
Okay. Okay, very interesting. The second question came in from Suzanne. What is a good bit to use to soften my horse's mouth?
Wow, that's a double-sided question, because in my opinion, that question goes back more to a schooling problem than a bitting problem.
Okay.
Often. I don't say always, because there are horses that are strong in a specific bit. I find horses are very much in two categories. One will respond to pilum action and the feel of a curve chain behind the mouth on the jaw, and the others respond far better to gags. But there are varying degrees of strength in the bits. So you can get a horse softer by using a stronger bit, but you have to be really, really sure that you've done the schooling steps that allow it to respond to that. And the one rein stop, I use a lot, because if you bend a horse and it's getting really strong and won't respond to the bit, if you just bend it and hold it, and it will walk around in a circle until it stops. And when it actually gives you that feeling of a soft rein and puts its head back to you, you immediately give it back the rein so that the rein is completely soft.
Okay.
And you might have to repeat that over 2 or 3 days and go on doing that particular exercise. Don't move on until the horse knows when you touch that rein, it's got to put its head where you want without a pull, that it's a touch. So the bit for me at that point is unimportant. I'm using a jointed bit like I'm saying, with that's taking the pressure away from the tongue
Okay.
and no pulse pressure. And I'm teaching the horse to give to that single rein pressure. Once I've got that, now I can teach it to back up. And so often when people pull the reins, the horse goes into the bridle and they let go. What are you teaching the horse? You're teaching it to put its head in the air because
To go
you
straight to the
are
right.
actually rewarding it for doing the wrong
Doing
thing.
the wrong thing.
So I'm not saying jerk or pull strongly, just keep the pull until the horse, you'll feel it start to duck ahead, let the rein go.
Okay.
Do it again, and when the horse drops ahead, you do that.
Okay.
Now do that until the horse backs up, and as it takes a step backwards, let the rein go.
Okay.
And pretty soon the horse understands to give to the rein pressure. Now you can start to look for a bit that is the appropriate bit to get the horse gentle without being over strong, that it starts to fight you because the bit is too severe.
Okay, so the key is actually not finding the bit to make the horse soft. It's actually getting the horse
Soft
first, and then finding the appropriate bits.
So you're educating the horse how to give to the bit.
Okay.
Because the problem is if you don't educate it and you then put the strong bit, the horse has to protect itself.
Okay.
So that's when it goes with its nose in the air and it puts its head sideways, it crosses its jaw, it will bite onto the bit and lock down on it. It's trying to protect itself because you've never taken the time actually just to educate the horse how to give to pressure.
Okay. That's very interesting. Okay, cool. We've got one more question that we're just going to cover. And that is, how do you cure a horse that is barn sour, stable bound? Essentially, a horse that wants to run back to the stables. So quite a few people have also asked that question. It's also something that I've sometimes had in my mind. So
That's again such an interesting question because if you go back to horses in their natural state, what happens is that the horses are naturally a herd animal. Their preservation revolves around the fact that if they are not being stimulated, they're staying in the herd. And because they're in the herd, they've got a whole lot of eyes and ears and noses picking up the scents and sounds of predators approaching. So that's where they feel safe, is in the herd.
okay.
So you've got to work against that herd instinct and teach the horse actually that it's safe if it's with you.
Okay.
Okay?
That makes sense. Yes.
So that's the first problem, that you've got to actually understand what the horse is trying to tell you. So how do you go about doing that? And for me, the only way I know of how to cure that is to teach the horse patience. So if the horse is what they call barn sour or stable bound, or it wants to run back to pony lines or something like that, then take away those stresses. Don't have horses in the horse lines. But more than that, if you've got a private field or you've got a private schooling arena or something like that, don't put the gate on the stable side. Don't put the horse lines where the stables are. Put them on the other side. Put the gate away from the stables.
Okay.
Because then the horse has got this double pull and it feels, it's kind of torn between two. So that's the first thing. Don't make it difficult for your horse to learn.
Okay.
You have to think through all those problems.
Okay.
And the second thing is teach it patience. So every time it wants to go back to the horse lines, go back to what I'm talking about, that one rein stop, just bend the horse and let it walk in a circle. Don't pull too hard, but just keep it bent enough that it walks in a circle until it stops. The minute it stops, throw the reins away, kind of release the pressure. And sit quietly, take away leg pressure. Let the horse stand. And the big thing here is don't ask the horse to begin with to stand for too long. Because if it moves before you ask it to move, you've basically negated everything you're teaching it. It must move when it's asked to move. So you get it to turn and turn and turn and stand, maybe for 3 or 4 seconds to start with, then move it out. And if it starts to go back to the horse lines, bend it again. And gradually those periods of inactivity, you stretch them and stretch them and stretch them until the horse is quite happy to stand until it's asked to move. But there's one more little piece of this jigsaw puzzle. When you're asking the horse to stop and stand, don't ask it to stop and stand facing the horse lines or the stables or whatever, because the pull is too great. You're making it impossible for the horse.
Okay.
So face it away from home or sideways and get it to stand like that first. And then you gradually work around the clock as it's learning until it will stand anywhere, facing anywhere, and will just stand. So that for me is the most important thing and the most important schooling step that people are not teaching their horses. They don't teach them patience. So the horse is never with them in the schooling lesson. It's thinking about its mates, it's thinking about the stable, it's thinking about anywhere it should be and not what you're doing.
What the lesson that you're actually teaching it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then people create panic for the horse because they're trying to teach it too much too quickly and now it doesn't want to be there anyway. Well, if you make the schooling lesson a pleasant experience and you don't blur your lessons, you're teaching it only to stop today. Tomorrow you might only be teaching it to back up. The next day you might be teaching it to move the leg. Only that lesson. Don't blur the lessons.
Okay.
Because when you blur them, the horse doesn't know what it's being asked to do to start with, and that creates the panic, and that makes it want to go back to the herd more. If you want it to trust you, you've got to be trustable. You've got to give it a reason to trust you.
Gav, that is pretty unbelievably interesting. And just to end off, I just want to obviously thank Gav for answering those questions for you guys, but also for me. I get the privilege of sitting with Gav and discussing this stuff all the time, and just the amount that I've learned in the last year and a bit that I've been working with Gav is incredible. And I think I've realised that there's still so much more that I've got to learn that I didn't know I needed to learn. But I just want to thank you for taking the time to answer these questions, and then also want to thank all of you guys for actually giving us that feedback again, and sending your questions, and really appreciate it. And if there's anything about the subjects that we've discussed that you didn't understand, or questions that you have that relate to what we've discussed, just scroll down and drop a comment there, and let us know what that question is or what your problem is. Thanks again, and we'll see you in a future video.
Rob, thanks so much, mate. And just to all our viewers, it's quite humbling really to make the videos and then get these questions, and you can see where you are actually not teaching the lesson you think you're teaching. So these answers that we're getting back are so valuable. Absolutely. Because it shows me where I'm not being clear enough. I do it, and it's instinctive for me now because I've done it for so long.
So long.
So sometimes I'm not clear enough on the basic steps, and all of this, it helps me so much to focus and maybe make a different video that goes back to those basic steps that might help you more. So please keep the answers coming and keep the questions coming so I can give you the answers you're looking for.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks so much. Scroll down, leave a question, and we'll see you next time.
Cheers guys.